Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Recently I had the opportunity to work on one of these reels, but not under this name. And I actually brought this to everybody's attention about Sears reels and other reels that are called trade reels, reels that are made by somebody else and sold under a different brand. And well, this is one of them. This is the Sears 910. It's got a nice interesting inscription underneath here. It says engineered and designed in the United States, manufactured in Japan, and this was made by Daiwa. But that's I'm going to show you about that because a lot of people, were questioning, is it still the same reel? And it is. But I thought we would use this as an example to see how to determine gear ratio. So we've always said, or I've always kind of said, one of the easiest ways, start your handle at 12 o'clock, and one revolution of that, count how many times, in this case, we're aligned with the non-snap side of the bail, count how many times that passes. So we'll do that. We got 1, 2, 3. So that's about a 3-to-1 ratio. So that's one way that you can do it, a quick down and out on that. That's kind of interesting because these are big gears inside of here. I was going to be surprised to think it might have been a little bit more. But we'll show you the other method to do that. And we're going to show you how to take this reel apart, how to service it and clean it. It seems to be running okay. And well, you'll get an inside look right here. And then we'll go ahead and take the rest of the reel off. And we'll show you how to service this one in case you missed that one on the 7700. Again, they're both the same reel, right down to the case design. The only thing that's different is the color. The Daiwa reel is brown, and the name on the side plate. This one says Sears, the other one says Daiwa 7700. This one's not very collectible. It's a shame. Nobody would collect these anyway, I don't think, unless you're a Sears fan or something. But this did get a little bit of a shark bite in it. Somehow it probably got dropped off and shattered a little bit. Not a problem. It can still mount easily to a rod, but just in case everybody was wondering. All right, we're going to take this off first. This is the drag adjuster and the spool, because I do want to get under here. This little lever, for whatever reason, tends to get gummed up. So if you just hit that with some penetrating oil in the two seams of your bail and work that back and forth, caught it. You should be able to start getting a mousetrap kind of effect, which is what we've got here. So the bail doesn't need to be serviced other than that. Of course, if you see globs of grease or things like that on here, if you're feeling a sand or a grittiness in the bail wire, go ahead and do that. But this one, well, of course, I put it right on the high spot, didn't I? This one snaps nice and clean, free and easy, so we can let it go with that. This is an idea of what's going on here. We have a crosswind block held in by a pin. We turn that, and you can see how this moves up and down because of the offset stud on the main gear, and that's how you get the difference in the up and down movement. As I start to service the reel, the first thing I want to do, something I can't do, which is to turn off that click lever. Okay, well, we'll have to work through that. We're going to pull the pin. That pin is holding the crosswind block and axle shaft together. I'll work that out. This one, it's got a lot of old grease on it. You can see above and beyond that, both sides of this, there's a large amount of accumulated dirt and debris. I'm just going to try and see if I can't pull some of that off. This is going to be a little bit more of a challenge than I thought it was going to be, but we'll get there. I would say this has been quite some time since this reel's been serviced. You should be able to pull this axle shaft out. It's just going to be a little bit more difficult because of the old greases on there. So we'll spray a little bit of penetrating oil in there to help with that removal. We'll bring this out. Pull it through, and you can see there's a good amount of old dried grease on this one. So I'm going to take a piece of 4-0 steel wool. I'm going to polish that shaft so we don't have to deal with that again. And even underneath here you can see that it's got quite an accumulation. So a lot of what we're doing here in terms of the cleaning of the reel is just basic to any service. We'll do the same thing here. We've just got an accumulated group of old dried greases here. I'm not even sure what this grease was. The one was yellow or orangey. Almost looked like a mold. Run the cotton swab through the shaft center. Make sure that the back end of this is the only part that connects, the only part that you really need to worry about here. Make sure that's nice and clean as well. I know those of you that are hanging on with bated breath trying to figure out what's the other way to calculate that gear ratio. Well, we'll be with you in just a moment. All right, we're going to remove the rotor. That's a counterclockwise. It's a traditional lefty-loosey kind of an approach. Bring that out. Clean it off. Remove your rotor. That's got a key on it now that you can remove. Again, we've been kind of working on that, and you're going to notice on the bottom end of this there's nothing here. And one of the amazing things about this reel, in a world today where we live, where we need 19 ball bearings in every reel to somehow judge that it's a nice reel, in this case there are no ball bearings in this reel, and it still runs very fine. Thank you very much. And I probably should have left this on for a moment, because I need to remove the handle of the main gear. The handle on the main gear detaches by removing it in the opposite direction of the way that the reel spins. All right, with that off, we can push the pinion gear down now. Sometimes easier said, but this is all filled with the old greases and the like. This is your pinion gear. We want to clean the pinion gear. I'm going to take a bristle brush, pull through the gears. This is a beautiful gear set. And this is part one of how do you determine your gear ratio. I'm just going to set that aside for a moment. I'm going to use a pick to clean the channels here. I use that brush. There's still a little bit of residual dirt, so I'm just going to pick through it. And as I pick through it, I put it onto the paper towel. That way it keeps it from going back into the next channel. All right, we're good with that. This is part two. We're going to push this through now. This is your main gear. And we've got a little bit, not a little bit, we got a lot of dirt in here, all the old dried greases, right? So take a moment here just to spray this case. There's a washer up here. Make sure that you don't lose that washer and make sure that it's clean. Actually, we have two washers up there. It's a good place to tell you to take pictures. If you're not familiar with the reels, take the pictures and become familiar with the reel. Or at least have a backup plan that enables you to put the reel back together again if you get stuck along the way. I know it kind of sounds redundant, I say it a lot, but there's plenty of times where you're working on a fishing reel and, well, the phone rings, you get some kind of issue, you get called to dinner, called somewhere, and the next thing you know, you're just want to check the dog there, make sure that's working, and it is. You put the reel down, you come back and go, gee, where was I? Just like that train of thought there. All right, we've cleaned the case up. The only service you need on that dog right now. It's unfortunate this override switch it's frozen, so you can't back it off. I put some penetrating oil in. There's a chance at some point, I just let it puddle, there's a chance that it could work its way free, but I'm not going to force it as long as I have the anti-reverse. Let's clean this main gear's back off, and we'll kind of go back and show you what we started this with. How do you get that gear ratio, right? Remove it. There's a washer on the back of this we want to take off, because there's more dirt under here. You want to flush all the old greases and dirts off that you can. The reason you want to do that is you don't need it breaking free and having contaminants in it, and then find that the contaminants jam the teeth of the gear, or worse, somehow prevent the ease of operation, and kind of cost you a day on the water. I've had some folks that changed gears out, never cleaned the case, had sand in the reel, and that sand just went right ahead and well, ground down the new gears that they put in place, and all of that was preventable. Okay, here we go. So what is the gear ratio? It's a ratio. It's a ratio of the small gear, which is the 1, to the large gear. And that tells you how many times the large gear, which turns once, will turn the small gear. Kind of backwards thinking there, but I'm going to clean this off. Same thing we just did with the pinion gear. I'm going to use the penetrating oil as a cleaner. I'm going to grab my bristle brush and pull through. Pick an identifiable spot. I'm going to start right here. You know what I'm going to do? Some folks do. All right. I'm going to mark this first tooth here with black. I'm going to count the teeth. That's exciting, right? That's 20. 40. There's 47 teeth. Okay, and I also noticed as I was going through there that we still have a clog in 2 of those. All right, that's 47 teeth. For those of you watching, try to remember that. I'm going to do the same thing on this one. I'm going to count these teeth. Yeah, just mark that as the black one there. I'm going to count that as the first tooth. $15 teeth. So we have 47 teeth and 15 teeth. And how do we find out what the gear ratio is? We take 47 teeth, 47. Oh, that's a phone number. That's not a calculator. Silly boy, you know there's a calculator around here somewhere. All right, take 47, divide it by 15, and that says we have a 3.13 to 1 gear ratio. Well, that's not far off of what we did spinning it, but that's actually how you do it. You count your main gear teeth. We had 47. We counted the 15 teeth on the small one. That says for every time these 47 teeth go around, these 15 teeth are going to spin 3.1333 forever, I guess, times. That's your gear ratio. Okay, well, we use that as a lesson there. Let's put this reel back together again. Let's get it going fishing again. I mean, it's kind of fun, and it has its purposes not only in fishing but in all kinds of applications. So I thought I would share that with you. Okay, one more piece here. A little bit more there. I'm going to put some grease onto that shaft. Before I go crazy, I want to put that washer back on there. A little bit of grease onto the shaft. Again, this is a 0 ball bearing reel. How in the world did they ever do that, right? Well, because the manufacturing techniques at the time were very good. The materials were high quality. And well, you can sustain a reel like that. I didn't put grease onto those 47 teeth, so let's do that right now. I use an artist's brush to grease that up. That's because the hairs don't fall out, or if they do, it's kind of rare. I think I've been using this artist's brush now at least a year, maybe even more. I'm also going to grease the teeth on the pinion gear, and because this is just a bushing, I want to make sure that the shaft on this gets some grease as well. Take those 2 washers that were in here. When you put this in now, you got 2 things I got to do. The first one we noticed is, of course, that you can't turn that anti-reverse dog off. So go ahead and pull that down as you push your main gear in there. Next thing I want to do is take the handle to lock that in. Okay, when you've done that, make sure that you didn't trap the dog. Everything's working good there. Bring the stud down to the bottom. Now we want to take the 2 washers, and they have to go in this way. They can't go in mounted to your gear because they won't clear the teeth here. With that gear greased up, let's bring that through. Make sure that it seats up top. Then we can bring our rotor on. We have that lock on there, so let's make sure we get the lock right between the stud there. Let's put that nut on for safekeeping. So we've done a lot of cleaning up on this reel. We got one more thing to do after the reassembly here. We got to work on the drag washer, but we've also been able to have that lesson on gear ratio. Give it a quick test here. Yep, everything's working the way it should. Squeaky handle. Squeaky handle gets the oil. There you go. All right, let's take that axle shaft that we cleaned and bring that down. Light coating of grease. Take our crosswind block. Now this is a symmetrical crosswind block. It goes in both directions. So we can I'm going to take my glove off to do that calculation thing over there. Let's bring this in. So that's a symmetrical block, which means it doesn't matter which side goes up or down, but some of these reels that you're going to work on will have a difference. So you need to identify that difference. Just like here, you want to make sure you align your hole in the axle shaft so that you can put that pin in. Make sure that pin gets pressed all the way down. And now you should have an axle shaft that'll go up and down. Look at that. Well, nice and easy and free this thing turns. Alright, and then we'll bring that cover back over. And we know we have a 3.13333 gear ratio in this. And you can do that with any fishing reel that utilizes a pinion gear and a main. So bait casters, or spinning reels, or conventional trolling reels, or knuckle busters, whatever you like. Okay, that's back on. Now, to the purists out there, this bubbling is fine. You don't need to do anything. If you're somebody who's more concerned about the cosmetics of the reel, you could repaint the reel if you like. I tend to leave the reels as found. Kind of like the stories that patina tells. Alright, we're going to remove the spring clip that holds the drag washers on now. There's a little clip ring in there. Be careful, it's a spring, it will shoot. I'm going to pull out the drag stack here. These are hard washers, and this stack appears to have had a hard life, just like the bubbling on that. You want to clean out the inner portion of this first. We're going to find hard washers that are the drag washers, and we're going to find metal washers that go between them. This is a 6 drag washer set. 3 of the washers are drag washers. 3 of the washers are metal washers. They're probably steel. I'm going to use the steel wool to buff as much of this as I can clean, because that will make it slip and slide and perform easier in your adjustments. If there's any severe pitting, these are just discolored right there, at least that one is. If there's severe pitting, what you want to do is you want to grab a microfile and take off any of the raised bumps, because they will cut that drag washer. Probably should have put a glove back on after using the phone there, but that's kind of the way it goes. All right. And this one has got points on it. This one's called an eared washer. It's got a big center circle. Yep, that's just discolored. Or if it is eaten, it's eaten on the inside. It's not raised, so we'll be fine there. This one goes in the middle of the drag stack. And then we have two. We have a kind of a spring type of a washer here. That's going to give you the tension for the adjustment of the drag washers. That's the knob itself. And we have a top washer here. And that's just going to go between the drag stack and the knob. Okay, here's how it goes. These got plenty of grease on them. You could grease these. First one in is going to be a metal drag washer. I'm sorry, going to be the fabric drag washer. Then one of the two of the keyed washers. Put the second drag washer in. These are hard washers, so you have the option to grease them. The middle one is the eared washer. I'm going to stop there, and I'm going to put these onto the stand now, because generally speaking, the more you put in here, the more difficult it is to align those key washers to the slots. Well, a reel like this, you're not going to be able to find replacement washers for it. You're going to have to try to find a source that will sell you washers by size. And there are sources out there. One of them is smoothdrag.com, which can help accomplish that task. All right, the 3 metal, the 3 fabric are in there. Next one up then is that one that's got the bend in it. It's a spring washer. Then the next one is the cap washer. Goes on top of all of this. Then we take our spring, that's the retention clip, and put that in. To do that, I'm going to remove this now that I know I have it aligned. And put that retention clip in. And then we can use the star adjuster button to tighten all of this down, make sure that it holds. So a couple of lessons today. One of them is all reels need love, whether they're old or new. You need to keep them clean and tightened. There we go. So just checking to make sure that we have the tension. We do. It holds, and then if you back it off, which you should always do, you have the play in that when the reel is at rest. Learned that there's a couple of different variations of the same reel out there called trade reels. We showed you how to calculate, 2 ways to calculate the gear ratio. One of them is the simple, just bring this up to kind of 12 o'clock, put a mark on your rotor. We got lucky the time we did it, it just happened to align with that side. Just count the number of times that mark passes before that handle comes back up to the 12 o'clock position. You'll probably come up with 3.1333 just doing that. You won't have to count teeth. But we also showed you that there's a broader application if you do need to determine the ratio. Count the teeth on both. Divide the larger number by the smaller number, and you will have the gear ratio for that reel. All right, let's give it that final test then. Look at this. A beautiful reel. The only thing that's kind of not working right now is this anti-reverse override. Most people don't fish that anti-reverse override, so we're in good condition there. Let's just give that a snap, make sure that the bail is working properly, which it is. And this one's ready to go fishing again. So I hope you've enjoyed that. Before I leave, I want to thank our first responders, our police, fire, safety, rescue, and everybody dedicated to public service. And I want to thank you, our viewers, for making this channel what it is. This is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle, wishing everybody a great day.